everyone. I'm Rena, and this is my new podcast called Awakening Soul Divinity. And the point about this podcast is more or less awakening your humanity to connect with soul divinity. It's not about awakening the soul, because the soul's already awake. I've wanted, after doing some of the projects I've done over the past year with connecting with old souls and highly sensitives and empaths, to bring together this group of people just to get an idea of how this all works. And I was also continuing to go through my own healing journey. In that process, I decided this is it. I want to do this. I've been watching a couple other podcasts that are similar. And I think with the work I've done on myself and with others through trauma and grief, that this will be a good add-in, because I believe that it helps raise the frequency within ourselves to release the trauma or clear the trauma and close the loop from the trauma experience. Now, just so you all know, trauma is not what happened to you. It's what gets stuck in your nervous system afterwards that doesn't go away until you're able to clear it out through different types of healing work. I've got Sam sitting here waiting, and I just want to introduce Sam real quick, and you can just say hi, and then we'll start getting into it. Then we'll get into the actual conversation so you can give a little bit more information. Just a couple of things maybe about yourself, just real quick at this point.
Hey Caroline, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's so lovely to be here.
Yes.
And to connect about everything kind of trauma related, and spiritual related. It's lovely to be here. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm a piano vocal songwriting coach, but I'm also a qualified music therapist. So and also very spiritual. So I kind of bring all three of these elements to come together as a holistic approach to healing yourself and to finding your authentic voice.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And just so you know, everyone, Sam knows, we actually did a podcast together on the Ride of My Life podcast that I did 2 years ago when I was working through my own journey. I was driving throughout the US and doing videos and just kind of sharing what my experiences were. And Sam was one of the people I interviewed. And we had such an amazing opportunity. And we actually was so incredible that I still look back on it, where we were talking about the things that are happening now. We talked about bringing people together who were old souls and highly sensitives and empaths. And that's the group that was started on Facebook, because I couldn't find one that I felt like I fit in with and felt safe and supported and loved. And so I built this, and now I'm getting so much amazing feedback of people really enjoying themselves in there and feeling safe and feeling comforted and healing. And it's just an amazing, amazing path that we're going on. Let's get started. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, I'm going to share a little backstory about me. I love, 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 love music. I have been doing some form of music since I was a child. I used to play the violin. I played the cello. I played the piano. I was in chorus. And I attempted to do musicals at that time, but for some reason, which turned out to be one of my traumas, I was always told, not directly to my face, but kind of indirectly, that I wasn't good enough to do those by not being chosen. When I was 13, I was raised Jewish. So when I was 13, I had my bat mitzvah, which of course you have to sing there too. Everybody said, "Oh, you've got such a beautiful voice." Oh, and I was okay. Day after, I stopped anything that had anything to do with music for 40 years. And then I met a friend of mine about 4 years ago, and we put together a duo called In Divinity. And basically we connected because we both were kind of into the vibration, the Schumann resonance and all that kind of stuff. So I had always known in resonance at 432 being helpful to healing the body when I was working as a massage therapist. He had his guitar tuned to 432 hertz when we started. And as we went through the time, it's such a different resonance when you're listening to the music. It's more calming to the body. I can feel that. I can pick up on that. And there's a lot of people who can, so you can see the difference. I feel like we wrote a bunch of songs. We recorded about 12 of them. I mean, we had a great time. It was part of my healing journey over the last 4 years, and it was the most incredible thing. We called it healing medicine music, and it really did. I mean, a lot of that stuff when I was going through it either portrayed, yeah, something I was going through or whatever, and we wrote the song, and then he downloads music. You know, I mean, you're probably very similar, Sam, where you just hear the music and it comes through your fingertips, where I'm not quite
Sometimes.
that. Oh, sometimes. Okay. Well, he's very good at that anyway. And it brought me to a place of starting to understand what music is. And then I did some research and recognized, which I didn't know earlier in my life, that music has a direct correlation to mathematics and, well, geometry. And I didn't know that, as sacred geometry and everything in nature and everything on, you know, is all interconnected. But we talk about us being as one, but we don't really explain what that means. So I'm kind of here to hopefully be able to educate and share what that really is if you don't know, if you've heard it and you don't know. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about music, very short. What I want to say is that music, there's more to music than meets the eye. And there's even some musicians who don't really know some of this stuff, which I think is kind of interesting because I'm the one who ran away from all this. But whatever, I digress. Anyway, this is going to be a read. In a metaphysical context, the connection between math, music, and sacred geometry lies in the belief that these disciplines reveal a hidden order and harmony in the universe, often seen as a reflection of a divine design, where mathematical ratios, musical intervals, and geometric shapes are considered sacred and symbolic, representing deeper spiritual truths and connections to the cosmos. The ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras is credited with first discovering the mathematical basis of musical harmony. Did not know that until I looked it up. Music is seen as a manifestation of vibrational energy with different pitches and rhythms corresponding to various energetic frequencies, creating a connection between sound and the unseen spiritual realm. Examples of this are the solfeggio frequencies and their alignment with the chakras, quantum healing frequency, which explores additional solfeggio frequencies, brainwave entrainment frequencies, Nikola Tesla's 369 frequencies, and resonance attributed to celestial bodies in the Earth's heartbeat. In fact, the Earth's frequency, primarily known as the Schumann resonance, is around 7.83 hertz, while the human brain operates at a range of frequencies with the alpha state, so we've got the beta state and the theta state, where we're in the alpha state, which is considered the most relaxed and aligned with the Earth's frequency, and that falls between 8 and 12 hertz. And then finally, music is also healing for the body and mind, as having been discovered with research for people with Alzheimer's and dementia, autism, PTSD and trauma, pain reduction, sleep quality, memory, heart conditions, the list goes on. Because basically music, calming music, lowers the stress in the body, and that's part of the process. But the body loves music. All right, well, what do you think of that, Sam?
That's amazing. It's interesting because you can approach music from so many different angles. You can approach music from the classical world, which is kind of Pythagoras and all the mathematics. You can approach music from the sound healing world, which is all about frequency. You can approach music from the psychology world, music therapy. You can approach music from the business world, which is like pop music on the radio. Like there are so many different lenses that you can look at music. And I was just like listening to you going, wow, I didn't even know that some of that stuff. So
I saw that look. I saw the look on your face.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know what was the name of that movie back in the early 80s or whatever, where they had the invasion of the, or not invasion. It was like when the spaceship came and they were
The Body Snatchers?
No
No.
snatching. No, this is
Oh.
all good stuff. Something invasion of the third kind or something. I can't remember, but the spaceship landed and they had these like lights on the front of them. They were long and they were playing music with it. It was like da
Oh.
da 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 da, but it was a conversation that they were trying to have with the humans on the Earth.
Oh,
And I
wow.
always, yeah, and I always think
Oh,
about that. So that's really interesting to me. But yeah, I just wanted to share that piece of it before we get into to this conversation.
I
You
think
ready?
also as well, picking up what you've just said, is that music is pretty much the only language that is universal. You know,
Yes.
like you can listen to
Yes.
a song in Latin or you listen to a song in Spanish, or and you can, if you can hear evoke the emotion from the singer, you kind of know what it's about.
Yeah, so what's interesting though is emotions are universal. A smile is universal. I was walking down
Yeah.
the road the other day and I was walking past some people who were speaking a different language, and it doesn't matter if you know a language, if you smile at somebody, you know what I mean? So it's all in there, and it all kind of leads back to the we are one thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the most incredible thing also. And I've done some research. I didn't want to talk about this because I wasn't 100% sure about it, but because I've heard two different sides, but there's always a discrepancy side, you know? Um,
Mm,
Plants actually emit musical vibrations, and you can
mm.
hear the sounds. They have these clips that they put on them. They attach them to a speaker and you can hear the music coming out of the plants. And I'm
Wow.
like, oh, oh.
Well,
So
they say,
every
don't
time,
they, if you want your plant to grow, you need to sing to it.
right, to sing to it too. Yeah, but it's so crazy now because as an empath, now when I'm trying to, like, I'm not a green thumb, so I try really hard not to kill
Me
the
neither.
plants that I have. And every time I have to do something with it and I have to cut even a dead leaf or whatever, I'm like feeling its pain. And even the other day when I was walking past the bushes, they clipped all the bushes in my neighborhood and I walked through them and I could literally feel like, it just didn't feel right. It was the weirdest thing. And I'd never experienced that before. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm a little more open now. But anyway, on that note, you kind of gave an idea of what kind of work you do in the world. Can you go a little bit deeper with
Mm.
that, just so you can explain?
Well, so it's interesting because you mentioned about your past trauma with musical theatre, and how you were like really keen on musical theatre and then you didn't get the part. Boom, straight away, shut down for 40 years. And I think that's one of the big things that I do with my students is we get to the bottom of their past traumas, and it can be big trauma, little trauma. So for some people, they have been in cults or they've been in an abusive childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But for others, their father walked out on them when they were performing, which wasn't the father's fault, but they were 7 or 8, they didn't understand that, and boom, we make things mean things. And really my biggest passion is about helping you express your authentic self and your authentic truth. And so if you as a child had this whisper in your ear to say, I want to be a singer, or I want to do music, or I want to write songs, and then that little trauma happens to you when you're 13, like your whole body is kind of skew whiffed for 40 years because you had this desire. Yeah, you're completely um shrunk, as it were.
Yeah.
And you find that over those 40 years you you forget who you were almost as well, because it's not so painful then, because you had such a big desire. And so you squash everything about yourself, not just music. You squash your identity, who you are as a person, your values, everything, to squash that little voice because you were so hurt. And then what happens is there's a certain point in your life, and I often see this kind of 35 plus, 40 plus, where there's this awakening where it's like, oh my gosh, you suddenly remember that voice again, or you have always had that voice, but you're like, okay, you know that life is short, and you know that it's now or never, because you can either be 80 and just ignore that little voice and then have these massive regrets, or you can go, okay, I'm ready now. I'm ready to heal what this is. So that's what I work with. I use piano, vocal, and songwriting to help people express themselves, but really it's much more than that. It's about finding those little traumas, helping you overcome that, and with healing, and through songwriting, and creating a safe space so that other students we all support each other with that journey, really. Yeah. So that's
incredible. And that's what I love so much about you, because and your aura, your energy, your compassion, your empathy, fact that you're also an empath adds to this. And I agree, you know, like that whole piece, you just said something about ignoring your voice. And it's interesting because I met you after I started the work with the duo.
Yeah.
And what was interesting to me during that time is when I first started, my voice was kind of
tension,
scratchy, and I didn't know what was going on. And then I started singing, and that the actual physical act of singing, which is also related to the vagus nerve.
Oh yeah.
Helps clear all that stuff out. And it was interesting to me as I watched, because I saw that my voice started getting better. I ended up taking 2 voice lessons, basic voice lessons, and it started to get better and better. The thing that I noticed the most, though, was that as I was doing my trauma work, like you're talking about, and I started to not ignore my voice,
that it started to release.
It started to, because now whenever I talk to somebody on the phone and they meet me later, I tell them, hey, I'm 60. And they're like, you don't sound like you're 60. And I say, well, that's because I worked through a lot of trauma. and that's what happens. It's like your voice. That's the whole thing about this chakra. This chakra is one of the most important chakras we have, because it expresses who we are. We're not able to express that person because we locked it all down.
It's interesting because I get a lot of singers come to me, especially at kind of, I'd say the age of about 40 plus, who have intense vocal tension. Yeah. And they don't even realize it's to do with past traumas. They don't. And it's only when you start to unlock those traumas and you start to release that trauma work that the voice releases. Yeah. And it's a kind of double-edged sword. It's like, well, what comes first, the singing or the releasing of the tension? It's like, you know, does that make sense? And it's kind of
first, the chicken or the egg. They both
exactly.
For me, they kind of came at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find interesting too is the name of your work, the work that you do. Can you repeat the name?
Express Your Truth.
Well, there was
the Singer's Piano. I've got lots of different
Express Your Truth. Yeah, no. Well, that's
your
the
truth.
thing. It's got all those words in there. It's got the expression. It's got the only, my experience has been, and I have to say this because I met you in that process. and I did you had put up a free course, and I had a keyboard at that time, and I missed it. I still miss it because I really don't have an opportunity to do that, to sing or play the keyboard. I didn't end up selling it a while ago, which, believe me, it's coming back again, but not right away. But it being introduced to you and to what you do and how you do it was like life-changing for me. I mean, the fact that you said yes to the last conversation that we had I was so excited, because that's how much I love music, you know. And I was excited again when I asked you again and you said yes again, and I'm like, great, we get to have more conversation about this, because this is so helpful. I mean, I can't tell you enough how much that guided me on my journey. And I discovered things about myself, the hesitancy about thinking I can't play the piano, and the fact that it's not that hard. And when we're taught as children, and this was back in the day, and I'm sure they still do that, we're taught with
classical reading,
classical music, right?
Yeah.
And there's just so much technical, and you got to put your brain in it. And it's like, I don't want it. My grandmother used to stand over me. I don't think she had anything in her hands, but it felt like it. And she's like, play the piano, practice. I'm like, you know. And then when you did it, and you just gave like a few simple chords, and they all work together, and and I'm like, oh my gosh. So that made it easier, and it made me feel like I could do it. So that's how I see how you do your work with people. That's my experience of it.
I'd like to tell you, a bit of a background as to kind of how I came about this, because so I had a difficult childhood. And especially being highly sensitive empath as well. There was a lot of bullying and alcoholism and stuff in the family and so forth. And I found myself accidentally in a piano room, just accidentally hiding. And it was then I started to play the piano. No, I wasn't playing, I was just improvising on the piano. And
How old were you when that happened?
I was in year 5, 6. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
my son's age, 10 or 11. And I'd always wanted to play an instrument, but I couldn't read music. And I was dyslexic, but I didn't know that at the time. And so I ended up just putting my hands on the keyboards and like just making stuff up, and the tears, the release that came, the healing just from just literally from putting one note on the piano with the pedal and then singing. And then slowly but surely I started to, over the course of months and years, I guess, taught myself the piano. But here's the thing, being dyslexic, I was always made to feel wrong for not being able to read music. In fact, my music teacher said, you will never be a musician, because I couldn't read music. Like, she shamed me, something chronic. Even when I was at school and I did GCSE music, they said, you'll never do A level or degree because you can't read music. And I was very fortunate that I had some amazing teachers who were there, who kind of helped me. Like, they helped me, like I wrote a song and they transcribed it for me because I couldn't do it. And then I managed to get a degree where it was all contemporary music, so anything went. So I was very lucky there.
Yeah.
And I'm self-taught, but I also know what it feels like to be shamed, and I know what it feels like to be dyslexic and not understand music theory, no matter how hard I tried. And even up until the age, as even being a professional piano vocalist, like people would say, can I book you to do piano work? I'd be like, oh, I'm not really a piano player. I used to say, I'm just a fake piano player because I sing. I just,
That's not true, by the way.
it's not true, but it was the belief that I've had,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
my belief was that you had to be grade A, you had to read the notation, you had to do that to be a piano vocalist. You had to do that, and it was really, I'd say, when I trained to be a music therapist, that I started to go, oh, music's all inclusive. Wow, music's all inclusive. If someone who's had a stroke can create music by literally getting a finger and drumming that drum, like literally that's all they have movement wise. Or if someone who has a heroin problem can write a song and write the most exquisite, beautiful song, the music's accessible to everybody. And really, that was the very first time that I actually accepted that I was a musician. Even though I'd been professional for goodness knows how many years and being paid for it, we always feel like we're frauds, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to explain a little bit about
Yeah.
the accessibility of music. And I really, in my lifetime, I just want to help people to understand that music's for everybody. Does that make sense? It really is for everybody. And I mean, you must get this as well. Like, obviously the clients that you work with trauma, like, I'm not good enough, or their self-esteem is really low and so forth. But it's actually by doing, what's it, do be have? I learned that from you. Or
You did?
I did. You
Okay.
you Adora. Do be have. I actually wrote this down. Or be do have. So you have to be something first to do, then to have. And so again, like with learning the piano and singing, like everyone's like, I can't do it. I'm awful. I'm crap. Well, you have to be it. You have to go through that pain process, as it were, of like not getting it right straight away.
Well, if I may,
to do it.
yes, exactly. And I think that part of that is because that thought process has actually, at the get-go, has nothing to do with what we're thinking. It has to do with everything we were told as probably children or experienced, and we hear this voice in our head, and everybody in our life or whoever in our life was always saying, well, you're not good enough, and you're not good enough to do that, and you'll never be able, like you were saying, you'll never be able to play the piano, you're dyslexic, you're this, you're that, which is not true. I mean, and I know, and you were lucky to have people around you who were willing to help you with it. Not everybody has that, and not
No.
everybody gets that opportunity. And the more sense, I feel like for me, I really didn't have anyone to guide me, and it works differently with everyone. I've had this conversation with a few people from the group and another conversation that we did last week, and it was like, well, I experienced no mentorship, and I became, no, what's the word? When you, like I was pushing against, I was resisting everything because I was like, well, if you think that I'm terrible, then I'm gonna be terrible. I can't think
Oh,
of
so
the word.
you were the rebel.
Yeah, but not like us. I'm a sweet rebel.
No, what I mean by that
Yeah,
is like my
yeah,
sister was a rebel. So and it's interesting when you go, just from experience, like when you go through some form of trauma, I feel like there's a few different paths you can go down. Either the one is that you're a goody goody and a people pleaser, or there's the rebel and you kind of you my sister kind of, didn't do GCSE. She refused to. She was, and she's doing amazingly well now. She's phenomenal. But at the time, she was like,
yeah.
you
Well,
can't make me do
it was
anything.
interesting to me because I really, throughout my life, I had the thoughts of being the rebel, but I don't think I was really actually a rebel because I was definitely a people pleaser. So
Right.
I was always making sure, even when we started the group, it's like always making sure everybody else is okay. And
Got it. Yeah.
yeah.
True.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so all that was part of it. But these traumas, and they can be significant traumas, they can be tiny micro traumas. Like I had an experience where my son was like, well, I don't think you abandoned me anytime other than when I was 6 years old and you took me to daycare, and I had just gotten a job, and I'm giving him a hug, and I get down on my knees, I'm hugging him and telling him, I'll see you later, I love you, all this stuff. And I walk out, and that was the trauma, and that was
Hmm.
what he remembered. And I was like, oh my, he was a little 6-year-old boy watching his mother walk out the door, and that hit him harder than anything else that happens. And it's like, any type of significant trauma, any kind of trauma is significant. Basically, it doesn't have to be this major thing that happened, even though those are not good,
Mm,
but
mm.
anything could do this to people. It doesn't matter. It depends on how sensitive you are. It depends on.
And that's the thing, isn't it? As highly sensitives, something like that would be a big thing for us versus for a non-highly sensed, people just have to look at me the wrong way and I'm like, oh,
What did I do?
like,
Oh my gosh, I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that experience that you had, was that what you, that it sounded like it, but I want you to expound on it a little bit more. Is that the catalyst that you used to overcome the trauma, or
Mm.
throughout your life? Was that the thing, or was there anything else that you can think of that was significant for you, that
I
was the catalyst?
I think as a child I was very intuitive. In fact, I say I'm like audio clairvoyant, as it were. Was it audio voyant? Is that the one? Uh,
Clairaudient,
Clairaudient, that's it. Yeah.
clairaudient, yeah.
Um, and even as a child, when things were difficult, I used to hear people voices, and I used to, and it was like I had these kind of amazing, my gran and God, and just this pull of energy leading me to music from a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a place, it was my safe place. Like it was a place where when no one else got me, when no one else got me, I could just put on the hi-fi and just put my headphones on and forget about the world. And thank God for love songs. Oh my gosh, because love songs brought me up, I swear.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't I didn't really have that much love growing up, in all honesty. So for me, my love was coming from Whitney Houston, was coming from Mariah Carey, was coming from all these beautiful love songs, Barbara Streisand,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I feel so loved by all these singers. I mean, that's however you get through life, isn't it?
Right,
Um,
right.
and I knew, even as a 6-year-old and as an 8-year-old and as a 10-year-old, I knew what right and wrong was. And I knew that because I'd had an amazing gran up until I was about 7 who loved me beyond belief. So I had a very secure attachment, but she passed away. So I
Mm.
knew what right and wrong was. So it was kind of a little bit harder in some respects because I then knew what was wrong, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the music, even then I was like, I have to do this for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like this music that I'm listening to has saved me. I knew that even at such an early age. Um, And I think, but then, and it's interesting as well, like what you say to yourself, I guess, to get through certain traumas, because like, I was like, everything that's going through, everything, like the whole point of this is for a reason. I knew that as well. I knew that it was like, I thought the reason was I was going to be rich and famous. Like, I thought I was going to be like Adele. I'm rich and famous, and I'm going to save everybody. I'm going to be on the stage and be thousands of people. I'm going to be singing.
And not save yourself.
Well,
You know how famous people usually don't save themselves, or saving.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
they're just like us. Yes. Yeah, so just want to throw that in there. Yeah.
but it was like, I was that's the reason why this was happening, was because of that. I was like tricking my brain almost to just get up every day and keep going. But what's very interesting now, really interesting, is that I had this ball and chain on my ankle up until, I would say, 2019. In fact, I would say since I started to sing as piano, still with that ball and chain of like, I've still got to be famous. I've still got to be an amazing piano vocalist and get a record deal. And it was a ball. I'm going to say it was a ball and chain. It wasn't a positive thing. It was yeah, I couldn't do anything with my life. Like I was like trying to get record deals and trying to do this and being rejected, and being highly sensitive and being rejected is horrible, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when COVID hit and I created the Singers Piano, everything kind of aligned. Everything aligned, because I trained for 4 years to be a music therapist, but I knew I didn't want to be a music therapist. And I remember coming back in 2016, once I qualified, crying, going, I don't want to be a music therapist. I've just spent 4 years doing this. Why? And then suddenly, fast forwarding to 2019, it was like everything aligned. I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be a piano vocalist anymore. I want to use music for healing. And I can do that via the online, via these courses in a spiritual way. And I can help people with their trauma. And it was like everything aligned. It was like literally everything aligned. And if you're listening to this and you're going, they always say this, don't they? You think that your big dream is what you want, but actually God knows better, or the universe knows better, and they've got a bigger plan for you that you couldn't even imagine. You know, like if you said to me when I was 8, oh, did you know you're going to help thousands of women and empaths and highly sensitives to heal from past trauma, teaching them how to sing, play, and songwrite? I wouldn't have. I just wouldn't have got that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We plan, God laughs. Have you heard that
Yeah.
one? Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that's probably happened in your life as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like me have been a transformational coach, which I still do here and there, but it's like I keep getting all of the experiences I've had in my life have led me towards, I love doing this. I love talking to people. I love, sharing information with people. I love educating people. Is this not the best setup to do that? Being able to walk past all that not good enough and feeling like I don't deserve to do it or whatever, that was the challenge. But now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my God. So I totally get that.
But also, you're not good enough, and am I worthy to do this? You're the leader of everybody that feels that way, right? So you have to have gone through that to be the leader, right?
Yeah, I suppose, yes. But and that's the thing too. I'm very modest. I see myself as being modest, because I don't see myself as, I'm your guru and you need to follow me and I know what I'm talking about. And look, all I'm doing is sharing information that I've learned. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, my path was researching and following, one step to the next and learning on my own. And I did at times. I was like, can you please help me and do all the work for me type of space. I was in that because I got so exhausted from doing it the way but nothing ever worked that way. So what I learned from that piece of it was, you take a step. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it works, you keep going until it doesn't. And then look for the next thing. That was my whole journey. And it was like, obviously it's not something I planned or knew or understood, so, but what's important is in my understanding is even if we have all the answers inside of us, sometimes we can't get to them, especially if we've been traumatized. And so having people like you to guide that and bring us like over that hump is what's important. That's how I see it. What do
So
you,
it's interesting you said about like the, you know, the guru or the leader or so forth. I see it as, I just see it, I don't see it like that. I see it like, okay, so one of my biggest mentors was this music teacher called Mr. Every. And bless him, I think he's passed, I'm pretty sure he's passed away now. Um, but he was everything to me because he believed in me.
that's the key though. That's it.
He believed in me and he saw something in me that I honestly
Mhm.
didn't see in myself. And like, I'd come to him and I'd be like, "Oh, I've written another song," and I had no idea what notes I was playing, what chords I was playing. I had no idea. And he would teach me something new every week, just 5 minutes. Literally, he'd listen to my song and he'd go, "That's great. Why didn't you try that?" And I remember saying to him, like, "Should I get piano lessons?" He went, don't get piano lessons."
They'll
And
destroy
I'm like,
you.
yeah, he said that. He's like, because you are not meant for the classical world. And so now I feel like Mr. Every for other people, you know, like I want to be that light that I can see potential in people. I just pull it out, you know? And so it's not about like being, for me, it's like not about being the guru or the leader per se. It's just about I I want to be that person to other people like he was for me.
Well, and you're speaking my language because that's kind of where I was getting at is
Mm,
one of the things that I know that I'm good at is I can see the potential in other people.
yeah.
And I do the same thing with you because every so often, and you do it with me. So every so often, there's something that you're talking about, well, I want to get there. I'm like, darling, you're already there, you know?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
already
yeah.
see that. You've got this
Yeah, yeah.
glow about you that I can see it. I don't know if you see it or not yet, but you have your progression, and I haven't known you your whole life, just in the last couple of years, and I can see a difference in your progression, and see,
Mm,
but we
mm.
still have a tendency to talk to ourselves that way. Even when,
Oh,
no matter how far, unless we're a yogi or a swami or an avatar or something highly realized human being or person on this earth, we're all more than likely it's well, how do I say that? It's a continuous journey to go through this to discover and uncover our truth and to
mm.
raise up into the higher levels of frequency as we go
I'd
through life.
I'd like to talk about that, about your truth, right? It's interesting because
Yes.
in one breath we've got the beliefs that are pulling us back, right? The belief of like not being good enough and so forth. But the other is about your authentic truth. And I think that's what I've always loved so much about songwriting is to be able to sit down and write lyrics from the heart where you're at. So we're not like, okay, say my belief is I'm not good enough, right? And I'm really upset because I didn't get the job, whatever. I didn't get a job. The healing that comes from sitting at the piano and writing a song about how you truly feel about not getting a job, about not being good enough, feeling rejected, the catharticism that comes from just releasing those thoughts and feelings, because they're still true in you think they're true. They may not be true, but you think that they are true. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So, and there's like half of my world, and even now, like half of my world, it's like I've got all these beliefs that I'm trying to smash apart to make myself better and growth and so forth. But sometimes we have to be careful with that because we then mute our truth of like how we really feel right now. And that's why therapy is fantastic, because even speaking therapy, you can just say to your counselor, I've had a really crap week. I feel awful. I've dropped my son off and school and he's not very, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or and I'm an awful mum and I'm all this. And in that therapy session, the therapist just nods their head and listens and questions you and gives you that space to actually go, am I right or am I not right? And that's what songwriting does. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And okay. So I'm going to ask you this question because I'd like to see it kind of get honed in because it
Mm.
kind of relates to what you're saying. How do you see music and how it relates to healing and a connection with the divine?
Wow. How it connects to the divine. Well, I think that there are so many different approaches to writing songs as well and healing. So, for example, in my early healing life. So when I was awakening, okay, a lot of the songs that I wrote were very sad songs. They were very angry songs.
Yes, yes,
They
yes.
were
Yeah.
songs because no one understood how I felt. And they were very important songs to write. Okay. Now I've had years and years of therapy, and I'm not saying I'm healed by any stretch of the imagination, because we all know that it's a peeling of onions, and you think you're fine, and then something happens, you're like, God damn it! No more healing. Come on.
Yes.
When will I get to the top of Mount Everest here? Right.
Oh.
But you do notice that you start to write songs to empower you.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to realize that actually you don't need those songs of self-pity anymore. You don't need those songs of I feel awful and no one loves me and no one understands me, because you've processed that, and you start to actually go, that's not true now. You start to process it. Then you hit the stage of like, you want to write songs, affirmation songs, and you want to write songs that are empowering. So like Woman, Woman, I wrote back in 2019, beginning of 2019. And I wrote it because my husband was away on tour a lot. I was so pissed off, I'm not going to lie, because I had like a 6-year-old son. I was being a mum, trying to work, had a dream still, because I still had the shackle on about being a famous singer-songwriter. And I was living in Cornwall where there's nothing going on. And I felt very frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of writing that Poor Me song, I wrote, Woman, woman, stand up strong. And I imagined this Viking woman, this Viking, like this woman that was like
Oh.
leading the army. And I was like, this is who I want to be.
Yeah.
This is who I want to be. I want to have that strength of this woman. I don't have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a song. So every time I feel poor me, I sing that song back, and it raises my vibrations, and it raises me up, and it raises my belief. Does that make sense?
Well, I was gonna say, I see that the difference in you, even though I didn't meet you in 2019, I met you in 2022, but I can see that even in the last few months, like, or even in the last couple of years, because you are so I don't know how you do what you do. You have
I
2
don't know
kids.
how I do what I
Now I
do.
don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can consistently do your business, and your husband. I'm sure your husband still travels and does what he does.
No, he's home now.
Oh,
He's
he's
home
good.
now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the
Yeah.
meantime, in the last 2 years, you had another child, and you're
Yeah.
working mostly full time, and you clip, take chunks out of here and take the day chunks and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how does she do that? I don't. And you still continue to have this glow, this beauty, this strength, this power.
Oh.
That's what I see in you, and it's like, I don't, I don't know, if I'm sure if it got to the point where I had to do that, I could do that. But the way I know of myself and the experiences that I had, maybe now looking back, I think I could have done that. I believe that. However, going through it, I'm like, there's no way. There is no way I could have done what you have accomplished. I mean, that's
I Yeah, but I think it's different archetypes. So I work with sacred money archetypes.
mm-hmm.
And you might be thinking, oh, money, it's nothing to do with money. Yes, it is. I mean,
Oh,
Kendall Summerhook.
the energy of
Huh?
money. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's got this quiz, and you do this quiz. It's like 26 questions, and you get like it's like a personality quiz, yeah. And so I've actually trained to be a coach now because I'm obsessed with it, just for my students and so forth. But it really is about like the masculine energies versus the feminine energies, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because of my personality, I've got Maverick as my top one, which is very masculine. I then have Nurturer, which is feminine, but then I have Ruler, which is also masculine. So I've got a lot of masculine, go, 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 gotta be rich, gotta be famous, gotta be like superhero.
Yeah.
And then my Nurturer is like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. But my Nurturer is really good for like helping people heal and like being really
Yeah.
sensitive and
Yeah.
listening to them and loving them and nurturing them. And so I think that's because of that, I have that Maverick and that Ruler energy. I have that go, go, go. But one thing I have learned is you don't never have it all. I mean, my husband was saying, I had to work all weekend, right? Everyone was outside getting drunk, looking at tractors in my village whilst I was in here
Oh, they
working.
do that there too? Okay.
And I ran choir, and the following night I was like, everyone was going, "Oh, what an amazing day!" I was like, "Thanks." Like, I had to work, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, and then there's this guilt mum thing, because it's like I try and have Mondays and Tuesdays where Nyla's not at childcare, she's with me, but then that means I have to work evenings, so I never see Tristan. So it's you know, it's a balance where it's like nothing's ever perfect. You know, I've put on loads of weight because I don't get to run like I used to, and you know, it's a balance, isn't it? You know, motherhood and working and relationships and
Well,
but what I would
go
say, the
ahead.
divine, when you
Yes.
were talking about the divine,
Yes.
I think, I don't know about you, I've always had the calling.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I've had a pull, but I really didn't until I started healing my, I don't even want to take control until I started doing the healing work. I had no connection. So for me, it was, I knew something was pulling me, but I didn't know what it was. Like, I didn't understand what that thing was or what I was supposed to be doing. I just knew that I needed to know, like there's what is it? The Parthenon in Egypt, over one of the buildings they have there, it says, "Know thyself."
Right.
That was my pull. It was always about understanding, and almost like it always felt like it was like I was like Carl Jung, where I was discovering through myself how all this stuff worked. So I didn't really have that, knowing about where I was going. I just had that pull through understanding what was happening so I could
Mm,
share it with other people. So it was very similar to him, but not like
mm.
what you're talking about, not for me.
Yeah, so for me it's like, I don't know, it's like a big kick in the ass every day. I
That
can't explain it.
that I can agree with. That one I'll go, I'll
It's like a big kick in the ass.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there are years when I don't listen to that. And when I don't listen to that, I end
Uh-huh.
up being very miserable. And then there are years where I'm like accelerating on
Yeah.
it because I do listen to it.
So you didn't have like a profound spiritual awakening or transformation. Yours was kind of a part of it, it trickled on. Like mine was not, I don't remember really anything profound. I mean, I've had moments of it, but I don't remember anything like, this awakening, like, oh, that's what it is.
No, I think because I've been very intuitive from a very early age.
Yeah.
I've had moments of like real high spirituality. So for example, when I was
Mhm.
17, no, so when I was 13, 14, I'd always gone to church. I was made to go to church and I hated it because it was very cliquey and didn't like it. I wasn't in the clique. But then I made friends with someone and we went to this like happy clappy church. So I was kind of in and out of that life, this happy clappy church. And then when I was 17, I ended up going to a church called Vineyard. I don't know if you know Vineyard. It's like a massive happy clappy church. Was
What do
very
you describe happy clappy? Because I want to hear this.
like very modern, like feeling the spirit for your body, like kind of
Is it like a Pentecostal type of church or?
yeah, like they're like real um assertive, so they're cool. They're like very young churches in the sense of like there's like a drum and
Okay.
like
Okay.
Hillsong. So I did that, but then I fell in love with a woman, which was like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I was like, well, I'm really confused because it's love, right? Like, and then I started to question everything because I was like, well, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I believe you fall in love with who you fall in love with and you are who you are, whether it be binary or gay or straight or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So then I was very anti-church for a long time, but I still had that God's conversation. Like that never stopped
Yeah.
ever. That never stopped. And then when I was at uni, I got into the very slightly, not much, but like I had a lot of friends that understood about empaths and the universe and energy healing and so forth.
Can I
Got into
clarify something?
yeah.
You say uni, that's university?
Oh, sorry, yeah,
Okay.
university. Yeah.
Okay. We've got like separate big ocean dividing us.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we
yeah.
all say different things, so I just wanted to make sure we all clarify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I got into university, and there was some language which now I really understand all of it, but at the time I was like, what's that? I didn't, and so I kind of dabbled a little bit in that. And then um just as the years went by, I just had my own spiritual
Yes.
thing going on. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a Christian, but I am, but I do believe in energy and healing and
Mhm.
universe and so I've always had this like, who am I? But I've always had connection to God.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've been watching a lot of interviews and videos and different things related to that. There's a lot of shifts going on in relation to like old time religion or dogmatic religion, and the difference, like the younger generation can see what didn't work or what's not working with all of that. There's so much that's like I just to get an understanding of what's going on, because there's so many people that are leaving the church and trying to get their own connection with the divine, which is, to me, is how I do it. I mean,
Mm,
like I said, I was raised Jewish and I didn't understand any of that. And then I've experienced other different religions along the way. But what's interesting to me is you're not the only person that talks like this, that there's something out there that's drawing us to a bigger to raising consciousness. Consciousness doesn't sit in a church building for us to stare at someone who's telling us that we're going to hell if we don't,
yeah.
for example, believe in Jesus. But the Jesus I know, even as a Jew, wasn't like that. So I don't
I
understand. I'm like, okay, I
yeah.
don't get that, but
I
that's what.
think I think Christianity was the law. And I think and I knew that from a very early age, that like I just never agreed with the laws per se as of the Bible and so forth. But I did always know that God was there. Always.
Mhm.
Always. Always has been, always will be. Did I believe in Jesus? I struggle with Jesus. If in all honesty, I struggle. I feel like he's an amazing man, an amazing prophet. He could even be the son of God. I don't know, but I struggle with that.
Can
I
I say
struggle.
something? Can I say
Yeah.
something? Okay. So from the information that I've learned, the struggle is because of what we've been taught, or who we've been taught Jesus is. Where, like a lot of the videos that I've seen are talking about, and people are gonna maybe may get upset with this. I don't know. It's okay.
Mm,
It's just information I've researched. Um, apparently between the ages of 13 and 30, I'll go there because I don't really know a lot about the New Testament. Um, there's a big gap. Nobody wanted to talk about the big gap in there.
mm,
And the man that, so apparently Paul, the apostle Paul, is talking about Jesus in one way, and then Jesus's red writing years back with the original languages is talking about what he knew in another way, completely different.
mm,
And
mm.
so the Jesus that was taught in the churches was not the one that actually existed.
Existed.
And
Yeah.
so that Jesus, because I'm like, okay, I'm Jewish. I'm not supposed to believe in Jesus, even though Jesus was a Jew and yada yada. And I'm like, what does this mean? I don't understand. And then they talk about how those years, the missing years or whatever, he's actually in Egypt and he's in India and he's, traveling the world with Mary, and that we could go down all kinds of different ways here with this stuff. But that Jesus, when I learned that, I was like, well, I can wrap my head around that one. I get
Mm,
that. I
mm,
understand that, because that Jesus is the one that is kind and loving and meditated and did all this other, all these
mm.
things that we're learning to do, but all that stuff got cut out.
And I think
Why?
that's, yeah, and I think going back to when I met my girlfriend, yeah, because I knew that like though no one was being hurt, it was love. It was,
Mhm,
and what I struggled with the Bible and with the church, especially the church that I was in, was like, you're not allowed to do that. You're
mhm,
wrong. You're going against Jesus. You're going against, you're gonna, and I was like, no, this. of course, murder. There's certain things which is like, yes, of course,
Well, the 10
anything that
Commandments, yeah, you know, I mean,
hurts
yeah.
people, hurts people. But
Yes.
when it comes to an expression of your authentic self,
And love.
and love, I'm like,
Yes.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
You
but
know,
that's, again, that's not the Jesus you learned about, though. That's
yeah,
what's so interesting about all this stuff opening up at this time,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, yeah, that makes total sense.
But it's interesting again talking about the divine and songwriting, because and again, I'm not sure if this is because I'm clairaudient. What's it called? Clairaudient? Is that right?
Clairaudient, yes.
Clairaudient. Whether I'm clairaudient, but the song's already written.
Yes.
The song's already written. So when I sit at the piano, I have to be present and just listen.
So you are
And
downloading. You say you don't download, but you are.
yeah, it doesn't always happen though. But that's
Well,
because I get in my own way,
right, of
as we all
course.
do, as
Yes.
we all do.
Yes.
And oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, it's got to be a hit. Oh, it sounds the same as my last song. All that stuff that comes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's interesting as well. Like, I really do believe and feel that there are past lives, and I've been through many of them.
Mhm.
Because even going to the piano, I'm like, I've played the piano before. And I had the most surrealist moment when I went to the piano. And it was literally just learning about harmony. But I remember playing something and then going da da da. And then I played the piano, bub, 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 and it was the chord. And I was like, whoa, oh my gosh. I've but then I tested it even further and I was like, no, I've played the piano in a past life. I can't
Yes.
explain it. You know.
That's, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like just being open to these concepts without being so like this
Yeah.
to life, because there's so many mysteries out there. And when we've been taught to believe a certain way, you know, there's no past. I mean, yeah, okay, I can see where you could talk about not being there, not being past lives. I used to not believe in past lives. Now I do, because I've had too many experiences showing that there were a lot. And but but that's the thing. It's like just being open to understanding what all of this is. To me, that's divine. You know, I mean, that's part of who we are. That's part of our soul's journey, in my understanding.
It's exactly how we approach the piano. So a lot of people, they come to the piano or songwriting and it's like, it's got to be done in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
What if we just came to the piano and go, like a curious 2-year-old, oh, wow, what does that button do? In the same way as our spirituality, in the
Yes.
same way as exploring travel or
Yeah.
exploring new foods, to be completely open and allowing our soul to just play.
Well, that's the whole point. We just lost track of that. Basically, life is about play, because we were all programmed with the things that we were taught. Like our psychology, we're so brilliant and we only use 10% of our brain. Good news is that as the new generations come in, there's more use of the brain, but it's all because they know how to program our brains and make us believe through fear, through, you know, lying, through all these different things, that we are not who we actually are. Because if we became who we are, then we take over the world. But that's not how it works. Love doesn't work that way, you know? So being able to be that child and come to the piano or come to life in the same way as even Jesus said that in the Bible somewhere, didn't he? It's like be that as a child. Or I'm not a good Bible quoter, so it's not going to.
No, I'm not either.
Okay. But there's something in there about being that child. It's not acting like a child, but it's being that child, the curiosity, the fun, the love, the excitement, the, you know, all that stuff. That's what he's talking about. And because we're so traumatized, we come in as that inner child that's been traumatized at that age, you know. And it's like that's who comes in, and that's who we, you know, we become. And you know, and that's all part of the programming. It's difficult at best to come in and just play, literally play the piano, play in life, dance, you know, whatever. Some of us just stop all that. You know, I want to ask you something. For you, what kind of strategies have you used on your healing journey that you can share with others that might help them with theirs, like tools or?
I think in regards to music, I think the simple strategy of listening to music.
Mm.
Like one of the first things that we learned in music therapy was about playlists. And so my lecturer had us choose 5 songs that were informative throughout our childhood. And that was kind of initially, it was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, all these songs. But then the healing that went from listening to them. Oh my gosh, I was
I tell you what,
crying like a
no, because you
baby.
use that. You use that in your court,
I probably do. Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
do, because I picked them and I started getting into like because mine was the 80s, and I started getting into some of the 80s music, and I'm like, when my teenager was all, as you put, bonkers, is that a good word? And she went bonkers. She's
Bonkers.
like, bonkers. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. I got so, and some of the stuff that I was listening to, I was like, man, why the heck was I listening to this? I don't I mean, I discovered, I did a lot of discovery through that. So that's a good process. I remember that.
I think it's accessible to everybody. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need the piano. You don't need to be able to sing. You don't have to be vulnerable in that sense. You can literally just grab 5 tracks and journal around them. So, but I think again, why it's so healing is because you tell your story,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can have someone else to listen to that story. So I think when I don't remember when we were in the room and he just picked a few of us out and he said, can you play me 30 seconds of this song and tell me about why this was important to you? And it just then opens up a conversation about what happened in that moment, good or bad. It doesn't have to be bad, it could be good, but
Well,
just
and that's what music is all about, though. That's why we get drawn into music the way that I feel, at least music with lyrics. I mean, music,
mm,
other music or instrumental is a whole nother level, but music
mm,
with lyrics and the phrases that are said in there, like you had mentioned the piece about, how you wrote a certain way at the beginning and then it changed. That's exactly the same thing that happened with me when I was doing the songwriting. And like at the very beginning, you're right. I was going through, stuck screaming in my car and
yeah,
and then by the time I got to the end and we closed out everything, the last song that we wrote was called A Moment in Love.
yeah,
And it was like it kind of was the compilation of all of those moments of going through all these different songs. And not all the songs were like, but that day was. And it was very healing to be able to do that and to play that music. But every song was related to what was going on for both of
mm,
us in that
mm.
process. And so that was the and then he's the type of person who he writes a song and then it's done. Like there's no
There's no
he doesn't
editing.
go back to it.
Mm.
Are you like, or does that
Oh God,
same
no,
with
I'll
you?
spend hour. No, no, no. There's very few songs that I've written that I've literally Lemon Boy and Mannequin were like I wrote them both in an hour, but a lot of songs they could have been written 4 or 5 years ago, and then so all of a sudden they'll come back into my conscious, and then I'll be like,
Yes,
and then I'll be like, oh,
because
and you're ready. You're
I
ready
know.
to.
Well, we wrote 33 songs. Every single one of those songs I still have, or even if we didn't like record them or anything, we just did them in this in the place where we were jamming.
Yeah, yeah,
100% jamming.
yeah.
Even those, it was like I kept every single one of them, and every time I think there's one that I always share with people that I think is one of the most incredible ones that helped me, and that was the one stuck in your car or screaming in your car. It's called You'll Find Your Way. And
Right.
whenever I share that with people, they're like, "Oh my God." So there's lyrics that will guide you and bring you to a point where you're like, "Yeah." Or yeah, that's me, or yeah, I can do that, or I mean that's what it felt like to me in mine.
It something just came to my mind as you were saying that, which kind of came before, but then you just reaffirmed what I said. So there are going to be some people listening that are being like, "Well, I actually am a musician." So the next step for healing, I would be saying, is share your music, because actually, when you share your music, look out for the people that you do make a profound impact on, because that will give them healing, but also your self-healing. And you have to be open to seeing that, though. A lot of people will share their music and they'll want thousands of people to resonate with their music. But actually, it just takes one. Just takes that one person. So like when you were saying
One
about
heart at a time.
one heart at a time, but there's something really profound about when you share that song with somebody else, and when they heal, it's like you heal all over again.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And that's, yeah. I mean, I think that is probably why I like to share those songs that I do share, because I feel that. I mean, I think that that's a huge, but there's the connection. That's a connection between what I wrote and the fact that that other person is receiving it, and
And
they're resonating with it, and they get it. And I'm like, and then there's, I mean, there's always going to be people who are like, they don't like it,
yeah,
and that's okay. I mean, that's the thing, not everybody's gonna appreciate, but don't take that to heart. That's what I'm saying. It's like, keep going. Don't just
yeah.
stop because that one person says, oh, that's a piece of crap, because somebody else is not gonna say that.
Mm. And
Yes.
I also, okay, I'm 42 and I've shared a lot of music in my time to different people, a lot of music. And the people that have been the most derogatory towards my music have been the people that I've been closest to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I would say is the music is very, it's like art. It's, everyone has their different tastes. And just because someone doesn't like it that's close to you doesn't mean it's not good.
Hmm.
In fact, I love singer-songwriters. And I reckon if I played Tori Amos, for example, who massive fan of Tori Amos, if I played Silent all these years to that person who was derogatory about my music, they would say exactly the same thing to her as they would me,
Mm-hmm.
because they just don't like that type of music. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, it kind of relates to, I mean, other podcasts I've listened to, they talk about, there's always going to be a naysayer, always.
Yeah, yeah.
And generally, at least in the way things work now, you're right. It's generally the people that are closest to you, because they don't want to know, they don't want to go into your emotion. They want to be like, yeah. And I'm not saying every family is like that and every person is like that. Some families are completely open to listening, or being a part of your life. There are times where there are people who are in who don't understand the people that are closest to you. You're right. Go ahead.
But I think also, especially seeing as we're talking to empaths,
Yes.
who
Oh,
and
yes.
but who are empaths counter narcissists?
Uh-huh.
And I mean, that's been a whole nother journey, just
That's in a whole
learning.
nother conversation.
That's a whole nother
A whole
conversation.
nother conversation. And we can come
Yeah.
back and talk about that if you want.
Yeah. So if I look back on all the people, the naysayers, they were all narcissists.
And I have to say, at this point in my life, they were my best teachers.
Yes. Yes. I'm still learning that. I'm
Well,
still learning that lesson.
don't worry, there's hope.
I'm
There's
still not
hope.
quite as complimentary as you are about that,
Yeah,
but
well, I know. And the thing with that is, like, the process is, when I finally realized all of that and I was able to forgive myself and them, knowing that this was all part of the journey, it's like, oh my God, that was freeing in and of itself, It took a lot to get there, and it wasn't that long ago that I got there. So yeah, and that's a tricky one, I will say that. And I know that there are people out, I'm not forgiving nobody, and I'm like, well, will you start with yourself, maybe, because you didn't
Well,
know what you didn't know.
it's interesting talking about that, because I've forgiven them, but I haven't forgiven myself.
Oh, then that's a whole nother conversation
That's
we
a
need
whole
to
nother
have.
conversation. But this is, this is what I'm saying. It's like the healing journey is a lifelong journey.
Yes.
And it's like an onion. And I only realized that a few weeks back when I spoke to somebody else. And I love it. It's
Well,
juicy, and
and I have to say something to you, because I love you with all of my heart. I just have to. May I?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you forgive yourself, it connects you even deeper to your soul because you're learning in a deeper way to love yourself, and you are the most important person on the face of this planet, because without you there's no one to shine your light onto, because there's no light to shine. So when you forgive yourself, you are healing that part of yourself that allows that light to shine even brighter.
Mm.
So however, that was a download. However you take that and run with it, I highly recommend you forgiving yourself. And offline, if you need guidance or assistance in that forgiveness work, let me know, because that's what I need
Thank
to do.
you.
But yeah,
The thing is, I know that there is work that needs to be done. I just don't know what. Like, I look back and I'm like, I've forgiven myself, but I'm like, no, you haven't. Like,
yeah,
I
I
am
think
so blind. I am so like, I don't know what I don't know. And that's in that
no. Well, I mean,
the moment.
just as an awareness, a lot of times when we have a hard time forgiving ourselves, it's because we haven't grieved fully about certain things. Because
Mm,
once we grieve, we kind of open that door to self-forgiveness.
mm,
Because how can you, if you don't grieve something, it stays stuck, and you can't forgive yourself for something that, you may have done something horrible to somebody, but God still looks at you as a beautiful soul child, you know? So why
mm.
can't you do that and forgive yourself?
Yeah, I think it's something so subconscious that I don't even know
Probably,
it's
yeah.
running
And
me.
that's
I
okay.
honestly don't know. Like,
Fine.
and it's really interesting, even just like, because I did some NLP work with someone, she hypnotized me and taking me back to like places when I was like 2 and 1. I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, I didn't know that happened. But it was real. It was like really there. Like it was
Mhm.
so I think it's something that's maybe very, very early on that
Yeah,
I don't know yet what it
yeah.
is, you know.
Well, I mean,
So
also realize that nonverbal traumas is a big deal. And
mm,
when we don't know it and we can't speak it, it's all about the emotion. And then when sometimes we're afraid to touch that emotion because we're afraid it's going to overwhelm us. And it doesn't. It by allowing it to come up. Like one of the processes I've done with other people and with me is getting like a pillow. I have a stuffed bear that I've had since I was 6 months old. And
oh,
I use that bear as me. I literally, a few months or last month when I was going through all my stuff, I wrapped the bear in a blanket that was mine as a baby. So I made that bear me. And I sat there when I was going through that, whatever that was.
mhm.
And I just grieved. I grieved for that little baby that no one understood, that no one didn't know how to take
So
care of.
maybe
That,
that's what it is. It's the
yeah. And
grieving
then
of the child. Maybe that,
now,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
here's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
kicker. You got to play music that's equal to where you are at in that feeling that's coming up for you, and it'll evoke all of that to come out.
Right.
So no matter, like, if, like, for example, if you know I don't want to use one of the church songs like Rockabye Baby, I don't like that one, but like a song that was sung to you that meant something to you when you were little, and you play that
Mm,
song, but there we're coming
mm.
right back to music again. You see how that works?
Yeah, yeah, and
That was
memory.
magical. But yeah, I believe
Yeah,
those types of, well, I know those types of things help because I've done it, and
yeah,
it's really powerful work, and you can
yeah,
do
yeah.
that for yourself, so
Thank you.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. What does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
do you know what, right? I'm going to say awakening means looking back and going, wow, how far you've come. And the reason is because I didn't even really feel like I'd been awakened till when I helped you with that group, at the Facebook group, and I suddenly saw where everybody else was. I was like, wow, I've come so far. That was my awakening. I didn't even realize I was being awakened. So I think sometimes we don't realize we're being awakened until we can kind of see the past and go, oh wow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's what it's there for, to learn from and then step back into the present.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And heal from the present. That's where
Yeah.
it is. Okay, what does soul divinity mean to you?
I think aligning with that truth. just aligning, listening to that voice if you can every single day, doing what the voice says, following your heart, following your soul. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. How do you see, or what to you is God or source?
Home.
Home.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually learning about star seeds. Do you know much about star seeds?
I'm a little bit, yeah. I think I don't know. I don't know if I am one or not. I haven't dived into that one yet. Dove. I don't know what
I didn't even know what star seeds were. Just for anyone that doesn't know, Google it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not a star seed. I know I'm not. But it's interesting how there's like the universe is so much bigger than we think. And, we think of planet Earth as like the only place. And it's like, no, I think that there is so much, the soul, that we are beings that come from somewhere even greater.
I've noticed that there's a lot of star seeds that are like almost in a, not a desperation, maybe it is that word, I don't know, but they don't like it here anymore. So they want to go back where they came from. I've heard a lot of that over the years. And like Pleiades and Sirius and whatever star system, and it's just interesting to research all that stuff for sure. Yeah, I love
it. Is bonkers. And
yeah.
when I started going down that road, I was like, I'm open-minded, because I'm like, you don't know anything. Come on, we're like merely poor human beings in a vast universe. Who am I to say I know exactly? Who am I to say what's right and what's wrong,
Yeah. I mean, here we are on Earth, these little, this is us on Earth, and here's Earth in the universe, the star system, and here's our star system in the bigger star system. Oh my gosh, infinity.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question is, what is unconditional love to you?
Okay, this unconditional love is when you give someone a hug, even when you're exhausted, even when you're tired, even when you are angry with them, even when you're frustrated, and you hug them and nothing else matters.
And it changes everything, right?
Yeah, it's just love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's just love.
All right. So really, I mean, this was a great conversation. I just have one more easy question. This will remind you of what we did before. How can people get in touch with you?
So if you're still listening to this, it's our mad conversations on star seeds and everything. So I have, if you're interested in learning about music and you kind of want to learn piano vocal songwriting for expression and healing, I've got a starter guide. So you can grab your starter kit at www.thesingerspiano.com/starter kit. Literally, starter kit, all lowercase. It's a free guide. If you've never played the piano before, it teaches you how to play a few chords so that you can write a song and express yourself for healing.
I love that.
Yeah, nice and simple.
And real quick, you mentioned something about a webinar at the beginning when we were talking before we came on. I just wanted to see if you wanted to share that too.
Yeah, so I'm really big on improvisational piano, because when you can sit at the piano and just play really fast, easily, you can express yourself faster and heal through songwriting. So I'm doing a free webinar. It's a 1-hour lesson, and it's going to be basically teaching you how to create beautiful piano arrangements for your voice. And I'm going to be teaching you about how, when you approach singing and piano, it's actually one instrument. So a lot of the time students come to me and they focus on the singing or the piano. And here is like the problem with a lot of people struggling with that combination. They can't do it. And so if you see it as one instrument, then it's just a lot easier to learn. And all the information's on the information page, and literally it's thesingerspiano.com/5 steps, and it's all lowercase, 5 steps.
Okay, so just make sure you share those links, and I will put them in the description, and hope you attend, because you'll get a lot out of it. Trust me.
Yeah, and listen, it's I honestly believe that piano vocal and songwriting is the fastest way to healing and self-expression, because I think when you can connect to music, it just pulls stuff out that speaking alone can't always do, as we've spoken about in this conversation. So,
And is there anything else that you want to add to the end of this that you want to say to everybody?
I just want to say thank you, Caroline, for having me.
Of
And I
course.
love these conversations.
I
And
know.
like I just love talking all things spiritual with you and like music and expression. And yeah, just thank you for having me. I
Absolutely.
love talking to you. And I hope that the YouTube channel goes really well
Same.
for you.
Aw, thank you so much. I mean, it's not even for me, it's for everybody, you know, it's like this is a big deal. I feel, you know. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
All right then. All right. Take care.